welcome back to the Till Tribe channel. I'm Lorianne. If you're new here, thanks for stopping by. Today's video is a very overdue updated Q&A video. It's been a minute, a lot has happened. There's more of you guys here that maybe, you know, didn't see the first one, or you just have like new questions, and so I'm coming at you with a Q&A. I asked over on Instagram to send your questions. So if you're not following me over on Instagram, you might want to do that so you can participate in like upcoming Q&A videos, or just like, you know, sometimes I have you guys vote on what you want the next video to be. I don't want to be too chatty because you guys actually submitted a lot of questions and I don't know how to shut up. So I'm not somebody that ever answers anything in like 1 or 2 words, or even a 1 or 2 sentences really. So I just need to get into it. Otherwise this video is going to be like 10 hours long. Likely still probably going to be a long one. Depending on what time of day it is when you're watching this, I suggest you grab yourself a beverage, a coffee, a nice ice water, some tea maybe, a glass of wine, a cocktail, a shot. I don't judge, whatever you want. It's afternoon now as I'm filming this. I'm double fisting beverages. I've got a coffee and I've also got some water. So with these questions, I don't like to bounce all over the place from topic to topic. So I kind of take all of the questions and I kind of just like categorize them. So they're kind of generally in the same category as we go through. So I'm gonna start off with kids and parenting. First question is, how is Josiah doing with speech and other skills? So Josiah, in terms of kind of like mobility and movement, has always been a little bit more advanced. Like around the time we had his birthday party last year, so he was about 15 months old at the time, he was saying little words, or words that sounded like words. Like he couldn't say balloon, but he was saying something that sounded very similar, and he knew that that was what he knew a balloon to be. Like he would say it and point to balloons and whatever. He was saying down, like to the dogs, or if he wanted to get off the bed, he would go down, down. And from there, he started picking up little words here and there. And then when Ariella was born, he just kind of stopped talking. And I got a little bit nervous, but I spoke to his pediatrician, and I also spoke to my sister-in-law, who's a preschool teacher. And both of them actually said to me that that's pretty common to see some kind of regression in your children, speech or other developments, when a new sibling is born and joins the family. And we did notice like that speech regression, and then just a regression in him doing certain things that he had done for himself. Like he kind of wanted to like be the baby. Like he sees you holding a baby and giving all of your attention to the baby, and he kind of wanted to like be the baby again. I'm happy to say that he's kind of getting back on track. He's starting to talk again. He's starting to say words that he had previously been saying that he just like stopped saying. He's starting to say the dog's names. He knows Brody. And I asked him what his name was the other day, and he said Ojo, which we call him Jojo. So I think that he's getting there with that. What activities does he, so Josiah, do / how do you keep him entertained while you work? Because you guys know that I went back to work. I'm working from home right now. So 3 days a week I have help. My mom comes and watches the kids for me while I work. So on those days he does activities with her. They read, they play, they do all kinds of things. On days when I'm watching Josiah and trying to work at the same time, I won't lie to you guys, the TV is on quite a bit on those days, and I have to be really intentional with making sure he's not getting too much TV time all of the other days of the week, because it is on quite a bit more on the days that I do have to work with them solo. There's a very small handful of shows that will captivate his attention for a pretty decent amount of time. Those are our go-tos. So Cocomelon, the Dino Ranch, what's the other one that he really likes? He's really gotten into Bluey recently. So we keep those on deck, but also I try to pick like toys and activities that he kind of has to try to figure out, because those will kind of keep him entertained a little bit longer. So sensory toys from the Love Every Play kits, because he kind of gets involved and he's, you know, he's trying to figure out how to like pick locks and stuff. Or if I'm feeling really ambitious that day, I will set up a sensory activity for him at his table. He's got a little sensory table from IKEA, and I'll set up activity in the bins and I'll let him go at it while I sit there and work. And the reason I say I have to be ambitious is because the cleanup is usually just a disaster. It's a disaster. There's always stuff everywhere, whether it's like beans or kinetic sand or whatever. Like there's always stuff all over the place, but it keeps him entertained and it's not sitting in front of the TV. I mean, also throughout the day, I do take breaks to like sit and read with him or sit and play something with him real quick before I get back to work. It's not likely that you'll see me like at my desk for 4 hours straight, like while he does something else. Like that doesn't happen on days where I'm working from him. It's maybe like 20 minutes of work, 5 minutes of Josiah. 15 minutes of work, 10 minutes of Josiah. Like, so it goes back and forth. It ebbs and flows throughout the day. How did you come up with the kids' names? We had a totally different name picked out for Josiah, which was my grandfather's middle name. And when we were with the twins, when the twins were born and we were in the hospital with them, we had picked the names, and those are the names that we were calling them while we were in the hospital. When that didn't work out, the name just kind of, I guess, lost its luster, for lack of better words. I'm heartbroken because it's a family name, and I really wanted to use it, but I can't really use it at this point without thinking about that. So we went back to the drawing board and started to think about new names. Mike and I have a really hard time settling on names. I knew that after everything we had been through with infertility and our failed match and our disrupted placement, that I wanted a name that meant something. And when I started kind of going through and looking for names with kind of like deeper meanings, I came across Josiah, and Josiah means God heals. And I just felt like that meaning felt really perfect for us at that point in time. Like, if this did work out, if this match came through and we were placed with this baby and this was our child, this would be God, you know, healing all of the hurt that we have been through pretty much our entire marriage, because we started trying to conceive right after we got married, and we were met with just like hurdle after hurdle after hurdle. So basically the entire time, and it just felt appropriate, and so that's why we went with that. For Ariella's name, again, Ariella was never a name on our list of names ever at any point in time. Mike likes names that end in Anna and Ella, like that sound very feminine and kind of like princessy. I tend to not like names like that as much. I tend to like masculine names for girls. I really liked the nickname Ari, which is short for Ariel, which is gender neutral. It can be Ariel or Ariel. I think is it Hebrew? It means lion of God or lioness of God. I liked Ariel over Ariel, which tends to be like the more feminine version. But then to make it feminine for Mike's sake, I was like, what if we added like an Ella onto it? So Ariella, that's how we got her name. It just so happens that it means lioness of God, and Josiah's name means God heals. Like, having God in the meaning of our children's names was not ever something that we actually planned. It's just kind of how it shook out. Next question is, would you ever be a stay-at-home mom? I would love to be a stay-at-home mom. In fact, that was kind of the plan. We had some things that we wanted to do and things that we needed to get into place in order for me to stay at home once baby number 2 came. But baby number 2 was a little bit of a surprise for us, and we didn't have enough time to get all of those things into play, and then, you know, some other things came into play. A lot of things happened. I'm still hopeful that someday that'll be a possibility. I still feel like I would need something mentally to do to keep myself occupied, so my whole like day and life wasn't about like the kids and what the kids need and the kids this and the kids that. Like, so I don't know if maybe I would do freelance kind of marketing stuff, or, you know, like just contract jobs, or I don't know. Also, I think that would be good for me to just like keep my foot in the industry. This way, you know, when the kids are older, if I do want to go back to work, I'm not totally out of my skill set kind of thing. Favorite clothing shops for the kids. So I do a lot of their shopping at Old Navy, actually. I really like Old Navy's kids clothes. I like H&M for kids stuff too, but H&M I find is so weird. If you don't like shop the day that they put the things on their website, then you can't get anything in the sizes that you need. Like, everything on H&M's website sells out so fast, and I'm rarely ever at the mall to like go into H&M Kids. So they have really cute stuff if you can snag it. I also do a lot of shopping for their clothes at Target. What's it like having a boy and a girl? It's a lot of fun. It's interesting. I think it'll be a little bit more interesting as they get older to see like what each of them are into. It is fun having like a little boy to dress, and then like on the flip side a little girl, but honestly I just like putting them in matching stuff, like matching pajamas, which is like a little bow on Ariella is like my favorite. Is it harder having 2 under 2 than you thought? Yes and no. You know, the first couple weeks after your baby is born, I describe it as just kind of like this blissful like state. Your partner might be home from work with you for a little bit, you have family stopping by to like see the baby, so there's a lot more help around, and things feel really good and a little bit easier, even though, you know, you're probably exhausted. But then once that kind of dies down, partner goes back to work, family's not over as much, they're kind of giving you your space, you're on your own. It becomes incredibly hard, like really, really hard. Like, Mike and I even looked at each other at one point and we were like, we might be done. Maybe no more after this. Maybe we were too ambitious to want 4 kids, because it was hard. hard. We'll say little by little, day by day, week by week, it got easier and you kind of get into a rhythm with it. So like, yeah, there are moments, days even, where it's really, really hard having 2 under 2. Then there are days where it's easy and everything just kind of flows and it's smooth. And I love, you know, that they're both under 2 and how close they are when I see them cuddling on the couch together. I will say though, trying to get out of the house with 2 kids their age, I mean 2 kids in general, but like 2 kids their age, or you're strapping into car seats and you have so much to pack in the diaper bags and everything else, that is such a nightmare that there are days where if I need to run an errand, I need to go to the store, I need to do whatever, I literally just won't. Or I will pay the $10 shipped fee to have somebody else do the shopping and bring it to the house, because it's just not worth the hassle of trying to pack everything up, change everybody, get everybody out the door. Like, it's just not worth it. Do you like your kids' age gap or wish there was a bit more of a gap in between? If so, how much more of a gap? If I could plan it out perfectly, right? I think that I would have put at least a 24 to like 28 month gap between the 2 of them. I just think that that would be easier. But again, you can't plan these things. You plan and God laughs. So God said, no, you don't get 2 years, you get 18 months, and you figure it out. And that's what we're doing. Favorite baby item that made life easier. I'm gonna think about like what we use with Ariella, because honestly, everything that we use with Ariella to me was like the essentials. Like it was like complete survival guide, because we had just moved and we didn't have all of our stuff. I'm gonna say the Snuggle Me Organic pillow, the lounger pillow. To me, that thing it's pricey, but it is golden. Ariella's starting to like grow out of it, like her legs hang out the bottom, but we still put her in it in her pack and play. She likes to nap in it. It kind of keeps her snug. But you know, when she was itty bitty, it was like the perfect place to just put her down so that I could do something with Josiah. She could be right next to me on the couch. I could see her. I could move it from surface to surface and she would just be near me. Probably only have like 2 more weeks left to using it before she's like fully outgrown it though. But to me, it was money well spent. The next 2 categories kind of live in the family building world, but I'm gonna start with TTC, which is trying to conceive. The first question is, when will you start trying to conceive, if at all? So y'all know it's not a secret. Mike and I struggle with unexplained infertility. We're hoping that someday we'll have an explanation for our infertility. There'll be an actual diagnosis. Right now, it's just unexplained. And so the process of trying to conceive a child is a little bit different for us. I do think that before we like go back to a fertility clinic or anything else, I want to just try doing another couple cycles on like a Clomid type medication or something like that and just see if we can conceive naturally. But I don't want to waste too much time doing that. So maybe just like 2-3 cycles and then, you know, head out to the clinic. So I don't know. I think right now the kids are so close in age that we're not looking to add to the family just quite yet. Who knows, maybe when Ariella's a year or a year and a half or whatever, we'll start kind of, you know, starting to think about that process. Do you want more kids? If so, how many? So despite what I said earlier when Ariella was like a month old and Mike and I were like, yeah, no, we're good, no more. We actually do. It was funny. We had that conversation in bed one night when we were so overwhelmed, we were so drained, that I was just like, we're done, no more. And he was like, yeah, you're right. And like what, like 4 weeks later, we were like laying in bed and I'm rocking her and she's looking at me smiling and I'm like, she's so cute. And he's like, I know, how could you not want just like a million of her? And I was like, I know, right? Like, let's just have a million of her. So we do want more kids. The number kind of changes. We'll have 1 more and we'll see how we feel. If we feel complete, then we'll be complete. If we feel like we still have room in our hearts and our home for 1 more, then we'll grow again. Mike always says he doesn't really like to put a number on it. He kind of just likes to feel out like where we are and what we're capable of, and if we have the space and the capacity to add another child. So I'm kind of like with him on that now. I think we've kind of just like taken the number off of it and we just kind of like see what happens. Next question is like, starts off the same. It's, will you be expanding your family? The second part of that is, if so, how old, you know, do the kids have to be? I think that what they're asking by that is like, how much of an age gap do we want in between them? So I don't know, because like I said before, you plan, God laughs, right? But I don't think that we would even start thinking about baby number 3 until Ariella is like at least a year and a half old. Then we have the buffer of her like being a year and a half, and then it's obviously going to take us some time to conceive or whatever. And so hopefully by the time, you know, the baby's born, they have a full, you know, 2+ years in between them. Next question, do you still want 4 kids? Will you consider infertility treatments in the future? So, I mean, yeah, in theory, I'd like to say that we still want 4 kids, but like I said before, we'll have baby number 3. We know for sure we want a baby number 3. We don't feel like we're done at this point. But after baby number 3 is born, we will gauge how we feel. Moving into adoption. Will you guys adopt again? I don't have a real answer for that question, to be totally honest with you. We knew we wanted to adopt at least twice. I never wanted Josiah to be our only adopted child. Like, I didn't want it to be Josiah was adopted and then we went on to have 2 biological children. We always wanted someone else in our home that he could relate to, another sibling who has a similar story to his. We got a situation where our children are full biological siblings, so they can relate to each other on more levels than I think I ever thought that my children could relate to each other on. I think Mike and I would both say we would love to adopt again. We love how our family has been built on adoption. We love the relationship that we have with our children's birth parents. But it scares me a little bit because if we adopted again, and let's say we had a 3rd child, that child is more likely than not gonna have different birth parents, right? And so the concern is that what if our relationship with their birth parents or birth mother looks different than the relationship that we have with Josiah and Ariela's birth family? Is that gonna be a point of contention? Is that going to hurt if they're not the same, if they're not as good, if it's not possible for us to have an adoption as open as what we have with Josiah and Ariela's family? Like, there are so many different factors to think about, and that worries me. Plus, I think at this point we have 2 children, and if we had a biological child and then went back to adoption, I just feel like we'd be waiting for an expectant, you know, family to pick us for half a century because, you know, we already have a pretty built out family. So never say never, because I think we would absolutely love to again. We just don't know right now. Who came up with the baby's names? Did the birth mom agree, or did she let you decide? So in adoption, I feel like everybody kind of does something different. With us, we picked their full names. We picked their first and middle names, and birth mom was fine with that. You let everyone know that your kids are adopted. So this one's kind of interesting because a couple months ago on stories, I was telling a story about how I was getting my hair done. It was right after Ariela was born. It was the day we were going to do newborn shoot, and I was getting my hair done, and the girl was like, oh, any special occasion? And I said, you know, I'm having my daughter's newborn pictures today. And she was like, you don't look like you just had a baby. Oh my goodness, you look great. And I just kind of smiled and was like, oh, thanks. And I was uncomfortable because I hate taking credit for the birth of my children, because I did not birth my children. That honor belongs solely to their birth mother, and I am so proud of her, and I never ever want to take that from her. Her birth parents literally created the most beautiful children I have ever seen in my life. I do not wish to ever take credit for that. But at the same time, I don't know this woman from anything, so like, I don't really want to be putting my personal life like just out there, like, oh, actually, you know, my children are adopted, like da 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 da. Like, I just don't feel it necessary. And when I said that on story, somebody was like, but you literally have a YouTube channel where you talk about adoption and you share that your kids are adopted with everybody that watches. So what's the difference? To me, the difference is the intention behind telling somebody. So if it's somebody that I know or somebody that I'm looking to form a relationship with, then I think it's fine to share that. But if it's somebody I'm just gonna speak to in passing, like a girl at the blow dry bar or like the cashier at, you know, the Walmart, like I just don't feel the need to share that at that point. Kids are young now, so they don't know any different, but like, could you imagine being like a 10-year-old and everywhere you go, when somebody says like, oh, your son looks just like you as a parent say like, oh, not possible, I didn't birth him, he's adopted. Like, that would absolutely suck. But I do like to share that. Again, if I'm forming a relationship with somebody, I think it's pertinent for them to know how our family was kind of put together. Also, because if they're going to be around my kids, it just makes sense for them to maybe approach certain things with a little bit more sensitivity or like respect. I don't mind sharing that, you know, our family was built on adoption if I'm using it for educational purposes. Like, that's how I think about this channel. I think of me sharing that story as a way to provide information, as a way to provide inspiration to other families. So that's why I feel it okay. That was a really long-winded way to say like, no, I don't tell everybody, but I do share it when I feel it's necessary or important to share. After 2 failed adoptions, how did you decide to try again? We didn't know what we were gonna do. After our disrupted placement, I actually remember buying a huge pack of OPK test. I hadn't tracked my cycle in forever because we were on our adoption journey and I wasn't supposed to be getting pregnant, so I was like not really paying that much of attention to it. And I was just like, we might have to go back to this, and if we go back to the fertility clinic, they're gonna ask me all these questions about my cycle and I don't know the answers. So let me start tracking, let me get back on track. And I actually made an appointment at a new fertility clinic so that we could go get checked out and get a new diagnosis. I wasn't sure. We still had time left on our home study. Our home study, that was in December, and our home study didn't expire until like May. And so we were like, well, we're gonna leave our home study active and our profile active because, you know, we've paid for it and it's here, but you know, maybe it's time to explore other avenues because this has been really heartbreaking for us. And I kid you not, the week after I made the appointment at the end of December, we got a call on New Year's Eve that a new family had picked us for a baby boy that was going to be due in March, and to take some time to think about it because we had just been through quite a bit with the disrupted placement, but just know that there was this option on the table. So really we were just gonna ride it out until our home study ended and see what we wanted to do from there, and then Josiah happened. So he kind of made the decision for us. What did you do to help with the adoption wait? I think it looks different for everybody. Like for me personally, I really love focusing on our child that I was hoping was coming. I loved getting the nursery ready, and I loved shopping for, you know, gender neutral baby clothes. But I know for some people, none of that's helpful and it actually sucks and they hate it and they don't want to think about it. And so I really think it's going to depend on you. What I like to say is just like find whatever brings you joy and then just try to fill your life with that while you wait. Favorite adoption related books to read to babies and toddlers. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I have yet to put together a library of adoption books. I have a couple in mind that I've seen other adoptive parents post about, but they're all for like older kids. So I don't have any recommendations for you as far as like published books. Not quite yet, but you reminded me it's something that I should be doing. It should be on my radar. So I'm gonna start doing my research and look into it, and then I'll make a whole separate video. One thing that I do want to recommend that you do, we did with Josiah, I want to actually make it better. We did in like a little soft, it's like, you know, one of those little picture books for kids where you can put your own pictures in the clear pockets. I want to actually get one like printed up in a real book now that he's a little bit older. But we took photos and they're just photos that we kind of talk through explaining his story. And so instead of it being, you know, a random character's adoption story, it's like his adoption story. Did you have a baby shower? If so, before, after, was it in person, virtual? We never got to have a baby shower. We were supposed to have a baby shower. We were going to do it after our child was born, and it was going to be like a sip and see kind of thing. So everybody was going to come, you know, meet the baby. It was going to be like a little shower. But then COVID happened. Josiah was born right at the start of COVID. And we were like, okay, well, the 2 weeks to flatten the curve and then we should be okay. But then like that never happened. By the time like virtual showers or like the drive-by showers really started taking off, Josiah was already a couple months old, and we pretty much had everything that we needed at that point. We had kind of purchased, or some people had sent in the mail when he was born, and it just seemed kind of redundant. And then we always said when we had our next baby, we were gonna have a shower finally, but then Ariella was born, and it was so quick, and with the move and the pandemic was still going on, that we just were like, F it, we have everything we need. We'll figure it out. We don't need one. But I definitely do think if you are adopting, have a shower, whether you're doing something drive-by, whether you're doing something virtual, every little bit helps. I think everybody getting together to like shower and support, you know, new parents is really special. And I think hopeful adoptive parents and adoptive parents like deserve that just as much as everybody else. So what is your open adoption like now that you have Ariella? I really don't think it's changed in any way. It's the same. I talk to their birth mother like several times a week most of the time. Like it's actually very rare that we don't touch base with each other at least twice in a week. I think if anything, we all feel closer now. How did you fund your adoptions? Was it all savings or did you have loans? In our first adoption journey, we really worked our butts off to really save money and to create extra income for ourselves. So like I really got tight with the budget. We canceled any subscriptions, any memberships, anything we didn't need. I was like super tight with our grocery budget and eating out and going out and all of that stuff and gifting. Like we really had to like, you know, cut back. And then as far as creating extra income, I went through the house and sold anything I could sell. Mike was picking up overtime. We saved. We had some money gifted to us from family. We had done a t-shirt fundraiser, which was far more successful than I ever thought it was going to be. It didn't didn't raise like thousands upon thousands of dollars, but literally I was worried that we were even going to meet the 20 shirt minimum for them to be printed, and we exceeded that, and people even donated, so it was crazy. In the end, we did end up taking out a small loan because we had lost money during the adoption, because we had the failed adoption and then we had the disrupted placement. We had been out money, and so we needed a little bit of money to cover the last bits of Josiah. So we had applied for a small personal loan, knowing that when we were able to file our taxes, there's an adoption tax credit, that money would cover whatever we took out for the loan and we would be okay. So there is an adoption tax credit. I can't really give you a ton of information about it because like I don't understand any of that stuff. We have somebody that does our taxes that figured all of that out for us. But I definitely talk to a tax professional. For Ariella's adoption, we were not planning to adopt at that point in time. So we were not setting money aside for an adoption. We weren't saving for that. We were thinking about a house, but we still had plenty of time to buy the house. And then when we found out about Ariella, we were like, we have to fund an adoption and buy a house at the same time now. And honestly, we would not have been able to do it if we had not made money off the sale of our townhome. Because it was such a seller's market at the time, and we had actually gotten our townhouse for a really great deal when we bought it when we were 25, and we put work into it and fixed it up. Like, we had increased the value. It was just a good time to sell. We really, really lucked out. That's why I say like God's timing is everything, because it just kind of worked out for us. How do you talk to your kids about adoption? So that's kind of a complicated thing because the conversation changes all the time depending on what they're capable of understanding. You know, as your child grows older, they're able to comprehend a little bit more. You can share more of their story with them or share it in a different way. Now, you know, they can understand better. I started sharing Josiah's adoption with Josiah literally when he was born, and I do the same thing with Ariella. I would tell it to him as if it was a bedtime story. And that's why, like I said earlier, having that book with the pictures in it was really helpful, because I'd be able to show him pictures of his sonograms and his birth family and all of that stuff to kind of correspond with what I was saying in my story. And so that's how I do it now, so that it's just kind of in his mind, and he just kind of knows that like that's the story and it's his name and the characters are all the people around him. And as he gets older, that conversation will change, but it won't be so shocking to him because he already knows the story from the time that he was little. Okay, so now marriage. How do you keep the spark in your marriage? Honestly, after a little bit, you have to manufacture the spark in a relationship, because everybody becomes kind of complacent and content, and you're not putting in the same amount of effort you were when you were trying to woo each other when you were dating and stuff like that. And that's normal. You have to create it, which doesn't feel super natural, right? Like sometimes that's uncomfortable and you're like, but I don't want that. I want it to just naturally be there. It naturally does start to show up when you put the work in to create it. And so, for example, like I'll say, I'm not the most like affectionate, cuddly person. In the last like year or so, I've really challenged myself to kind of push out of my comfort. And to be honest, it was so uncomfortable at first. I felt so forced. Now it's second nature. I've noticed so much of a change in our relationship, in myself, in the way Mike then interacts with me, and it just is, it's not something I think about anymore, and it feels good. It feels sparky, you know. It feels like the beginning when, you know, you can't keep your hands off of each other. And so I think sometimes you just have to manufacture the spark. You have to create it in different ways, whatever it is. You have to make sure that you're speaking each other's love languages. That's very important. If you don't know your love languages, you gotta figure that out, because not communicating in the correct love languages cause for a lot of misunderstanding. It's super important too. And then, you know, like the obvious things that people say, like date each other. Date nights. Date nights are very important still. What's your favorite date night activity? I'm guessing you mean aside from like the obvious choice, right? I like just talking, TBH. I am somebody, Mike always jokes, like there's no such thing as just like a surface level conversation with me. I don't do shallow talk. I like to dive deep. Like we are getting into each other's childhood traumas right now. And so for me, I love a date night where it's quiet, it's not super loud, we can talk. That's kind of my favorite activity. We actually bought a card game. I'll link it down below. I bought it off of Amazon that helps with prompts and questions. So if you're somebody that wants to kind of dive deep and have those kind of deeper conversations but has trouble bringing it up or feels awkward, these things prompt you, and it's kind of more like a game, and so it makes it a little bit easier. What do you do for a sexy at-home date nights aside from the obvious? I think to spice up at-home date night and just make it feel a little bit sexier, you just have to do things that feel sexier. So like instead of us just like sitting there in our sweats or whatever, like maybe we'll get dressed up, dolled up, I'll put put on a dress, let's curl my hair, put on some makeup. Maybe if you need it to be like extra spicy, you don't put on a dress at all and you wear like lingerie or whatever. I mean, it's up to you how spicy and sexy you want it to be. Maybe play a sexy game or play a regular game that has like a sexy bet in it or something, you know, just kind of spice it up a little bit. Yeah.
Getting ready to leave.
Do you have 2 minutes? Mike has to leave for work, and so I want him to answer his questions before he goes.
Ooh,
you only have 2. Your first question, how does Mike like being a girl dad?
I love it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is it different than being a boy dad?
Not yet, I don't think.
Yeah.
She's still too young.
Yeah.
So there's not much of a difference from when Josiah was a baby.
Yeah.
Versus Ariella being a baby. So I think when she gets a little bit older, like 2, maybe 3.
It might be different.
That might be different. I think it'll be fun, actually.
I think you're just hoping that she's like the daddy's girl.
I hope.
Because Josiah is all about mama.
All about mama.
Your next question is, what's Mike's favorite song? What's your favorite song?
My favorite song?
I don't know if you have one.
I am just a fan of music. I love music.
All kinds.
I don't have a specific genre that I stick to. I'm all over the map.
Everybody always, when they come over, they're always impressed by how eclectic Mike's playlists are.
I'm not a one-trick pony. I can do it all.
What kind of pony are you?
I'm more of a stallion.
Alright, bye. Have fun at work. Love you.
Love you.
So now getting into the questions that were more for me. What is your dream job if money weren't an option? I don't know. I really love to help people. Maybe some kind of counselor, maybe like a counselor for kids who have like experienced like trauma, or like family counseling or something like that. Next question is, are you Christians? If so, how do you plan to teach your kids about Jesus? So we are Christians in the sense that we believe in God and we believe in Jesus. Our religious beliefs are not like the driving force behind our family and everything that we do. Like, I know that yes, there are people that wake up every morning and they read their Bibles and that's how they feel close to Jesus and that's how they feel close to God. And I'm not one of those people. So religion is never like the forefront of everything that we do here. We kind of just believe in being good people. We believe that that's what Jesus wanted. We believe in being forgiving people. We believe in taking care of everyone around us, regardless of color, creed, sexual orientation, and what people choose to identify as. Like, we just believe in just being good people overall. So that's what we're going to teach our kids, that that's what Jesus wanted them to be. Loving, good, forgiving people. Do you get acrylic or gel nails? When I first started going, I was getting acrylics. Like, my nails were really short and stubby, so they did like the little acrylic extension and then they were doing the powder over top. And I did that for probably like 2 months and then I switched to gel over top. What's your day job other than being a mom and a YouTuber? So I work in marketing. I guess my official title is a product marketing associate. Favorite serial killer / true crime show? Let's see. I watch a lot of like documentaries or like docu-series things, and so like they're not things that you like repeatedly watch. Like, you watch them once and you're like, oh, that was good and that was interesting. If we're talking about things that I watch kind of like regularly, I watch a lot of Forensic Files. I took a forensics class in high school and it was a lot of fun. It was really cool. Probably the only science I ever enjoyed learning in school. If I'm looking for like some true crime with a good laugh, I like Homicide Hunter, because Joe Kenda's commentary on his cases is chef's kiss. Like, just chef's kiss. He is like, I don't know how you make talking about homicide funny, but he does. I don't know if he even means it to be funny. I think he's being serious. That's what makes it even more funny. If you've ever watched it, you know what I'm talking about. Recently on Netflix, we watched the Times Square killer case. That was fascinating. That was fascinating. Do you have any favorite childhood memories? I have a ton of childhood memories that I'm very fond of. One that I was just thinking about recently, I guess, because it was just the holidays and like I have, you know, my son and my daughter who's younger, and so it just kind of brought me back to like my childhood. I have an older brother. You know, obviously with a 5-year age gap, there was a lot of, you know, fighting. I was like the annoying little sister and he was like 5 years older and too cool to hang out with me. We'd always cease fire on Christmas Eve and Christmas. And my brother would let me sleep in his room. So every Christmas Eve, as far out as I can remember, I would sleep on the floor in my brother's room. I'd bring in my pillow and my little blanket and he would lay in his bed. We would sleep in there together while we waited for Santa. And bless my brother's heart, because the older he got, obviously 5 years older than me, I think he just did it for me, to like keep the magic alive for me. I'm like getting teary-eyed thinking about it, but he would be like, did you hear that? Did you hear that on the roof? Go to bed. I think that's him. I think it's Santa. And so I love that. And like, I don't know how to do it, but I'm gonna try to facilitate it for my own kids, because I want them to have that. I loved that, and that I will never forget that. Like, my brother and I used to always do that every Christmas Eve. Should've brought tissues in here, making me cry. How do you get it all done? Work, home, husband, kids, pets, how? With a laughing emoji. I'm being real honest with you. I don't get it all done. I don't know why you guys think I get it all done. Everybody's always like, oh, I'm so impressed by you. How do you? I do not get it all done. You should see the amount of laundry that I need to wash that I have been neglecting now for over a week. I don't get it all done. I just try to prioritize the things that are the most important for that day, that week, that season of life, if I want to go that far out. And I just try to make sure that I'm giving my all to like those things. Things are always going to fall by the wayside. Like, I'm not perfect. Nothing in my house is perfect. My marriage isn't perfect. My motherhood isn't perfect. Like, nothing is perfect. I just have learned to do the best I can and cut myself slack. At the end of the day, if my kids feel loved by me, if they feel like they had the mom they needed, if my husband feels loved by me, if I feel like I'm myself, and I'm not compromising who I am to do and be all of the other things, then I count that as a win. Like, I count that as a successful day. If the laundry isn't done, if the kitchen is a mess, if I didn't get to cook a home cooked meal and I had to order in 2 out of the 3 meals that day, that's all right. I just learned that like, you can't be everything, all the things at the same time. Sometimes it's a struggle meeting all of the different responsibilities, meeting deadlines at work, remembering to feed the dogs. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, I let Brody out in the yard the other day. I forgot him out there for like 45 minutes. Thank God the dog loves to be outside. I was washing bottles and I looked out the window and I was like, that's a really big raccoon. And then I was like, that's my dog. So I will never lie to you. As a matter of fact, I really want to be as honest and transparent with you guys as possible. That's why like when we vlog, I don't go and clean the house before I vlog. Like, if the house is a mess, hey guys, welcome. Like, that's our life. And I want you guys to know that you don't have to balance everything perfectly. You just have to do the best that you can. And just make sure that the people that you love you and are happy with you. And beyond that, everything else is just whatever. Where do you get your home decor inspiration? Is it a specific site or company? For me, mostly where I start off with like inspiration is I pick a feeling, not so much like a style or a design that I've seen somewhere. I pick how I want a space to feel to me. And then from there, I kind of build out like what that means. Then I go to like Pinterest and I kind of just start making a mood board of what that looks like to me. Like, if I see a living room that looks kind of boho and cozy, like that might be what I mean, and I'll drop that. And the more I grab images that I'm gravitating towards, it kind of just paints a picture of like what I'm looking for. And then I just kind of look for pieces that mimic certain things that I like in those rooms, or like that feel like that vibe, and I go from there. That's a wrap on the questions. Thank you so much to everybody that submitted questions. It's really funny whenever, especially as a creator as small as I am, whenever I ask for like feedback or like ask for questions for a Q&A, I'm always like, I could get nobody. They could be crickets in these DMs. And that's always a fear in the back of my head. But you guys blew me away with how many questions you sent in. So very appreciative. Thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, you could give it a thumbs up. You can leave me any comments or any more questions down below and I will get back to you. Don't forget to subscribe if you have not already. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.